Hi, welcome to 20 Ideas to Use Some Fat Quarters with GourmetQuilter. I'm Susan Clare, GourmetQuilter, and we're running a little program at the moment using 20 fat quarters and making 20 different projects, ideas to use all 20 of those fat quarters. So just one set of 20 fat quarters, but bringing in some borders and backgrounds and bindings and things like that. So we've been having a whole lot of fun. We're now up to project or idea number 11, which means that we've just tipped over halfway, and we've been having a good time making some quilts and bits and bobs and all sorts of things. So what we did in part one was cut our fat quarters. So we cut all 20 fat quarters the same way. So there was instructions. There is a pattern on GourmetQuilter.com if you're interested in more information. And it's a downloadable pattern, and it comes out daily as do the videos with each idea. So we cut up our fat quarters and we labelled them. So there was labels and everything in the notes so that we could do all of that. Tells us what we're doing, and we have been using those pre-cut pieces as we go. So this time we're actually going to be using some leftovers from last project. So the last time, project idea number 10 was a quilt with little sailboats on it, and that left us quite a few little triangles. So we're going to be using just only a few, but I thought I'd include some ideas of using up some of these, A, because we've got them as part of the fat quarters, and B, because it's always good to know how to use these little bits. So some of the leftover triangles from the boats, so these are left over, and we just need to trim them down, and what we're going to be making is just a fun little project, just a little tissue pack. So we've got some of these little fat quarter units that we've, half square triangle units that we've saved from the boats. So to do that, we had cut these off. We had done 2 lines of sewing, and we trimmed away the corners. And so this is the corner that's left. We open them out, we trim them so that they're a nice usable size. And they do all need trimming. They will all vary slightly, and they're also going to be slightly oversized for what we're doing. So all I'm doing here is running this diagonal line on my ruler along the diagonal line of stitching there, so that I can see that it's sitting within the diagonal and making sure that it fits within the square size that I'm trying to trim to, and then just trimming them. So nothing terribly hard about this, possibly a little tedious, but really good to use up these little bits, I feel. So I've done 2 sides, so I turn it round and I'll do the other 2 sides. So I have actually gone ahead and done the ones I'm going to be using, but I just thought I'd just quickly go through the trimming so that you can see. So now we have very nice little half square triangle unit ready to use. So there's quite a few of those that can be trimmed up at some stage, but this time we're only using 6. We're most likely using some more in another project later on, so hang on to your triangles. So I have gone ahead, so what we needed to do for this, I haven't put any batting or anything in this. I've simply just lined it with another fabric which we've used to come around the edge to form a nice little edge there, and then we've just done some nice little corners here just to kind of make it seem like a nice little package. So I've cut out my pieces. So the red is going to be my lining. These are going to be where I've got the green here, and then I have already joined together 6 of these little half square units. I've pressed all the seams one way so that we're ready to pop those in. So now I'm going to pop them in. There would be different ways of putting this together, of course, but this is the way I've decided is a good idea for today. So I'm going to go ahead and make this. So I'm just going to sew this into here. So we've got this shorter piece. This is the top section, and then this larger one is the lower section here. I'm just going to stitch that all on. So just using my regular 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we need to sew the other piece on as well, but because it's all quite small, I like to press as I go. It's just much easier to get at things without another piece of fabric and seam kind of looming. I love these little half square units, they're just so effective. And it's always good to have some little project ideas that make good little useful items, good little gifts, all sorts of things like that, and using up all those wonderful little leftovers. Leftovers are the best. So we can press that now. So you can see it's kind of that simple to just use up some of these pieces. They are quite small, but absolutely usable. So I've got that piece sitting there nicely now. I've got my lining, so I've got the lining right side up. I'm going to put them right sides together. The lining is wider because we want it to flip around to create this nice little edge here. So now we just need to sew these two edges here together. Again, just straightforward seam. So I might go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back and show you how to do the next bit. So I've done the two side seams, and so I'm going to turn it out the right way now, and that should now give us these little bits extra. So what I'm going to do for the pressing is initially I'm just going to press it, just to press that seam, and I'll do that with both seams. I'm not trying to press anything else except just to get that seam flat at the moment, and then we're going to let it sit so that it's quite comfortable. That red should come around the sides there, and it is. It's looking pretty good. And now we can press again, and so that's how we've got a nice little edge already. So what we would now need to do is maybe grab a couple of pins, and we need to know where that centre is so that we can fold those over. So we can just pop a fold in it. Sometimes folds disappear when you're not watching. So I'll pop a pin in each at the halfway. So we should also just top stitch these two little edges just in that ditch along there. It just gives it a slightly firmer edge. Other one too. And now we can put this over. So we just want that little, where the colour change is, we want to sit right over that halfway point where the pin is, and on this one we want to do the same thing with it sitting to that side of the pin. So that'll go just there, so we want to make sure they're all okay there, and then we're just going to stitch across that edge, and we're going to do the same thing at the other end as well. So I'll go ahead and get the other end in place and stitched. So I've got my two side seams stitched. I can take the pins out, but we can give it a press. We don't particularly need to at the moment. You know me, I like to press everything. I'm just going to neaten the edges with a little zigzag stitch because they're a little bit exposed inside, so I'm not really particularly taking the size down. I just want them to have a nice straight edge without any little threads sticking out. So that just tidies them up, and I popped a zigzag, a wide foot on my machine so that the needle can swing, and I'm just going to zigzag along those edges, and that just holds all those edges together and stops the fraying. Just trim off the thread. Now we could just leave it like that and it will just have sort of little regular pointy corners, so if you're happy with that sort of look, that's fine. I quite like to do these little box corners, or paper bag corners as they're sometimes called. So all that involves is just opening out so that the seam kind of comes up to the middle of a point there. and I'm just going to stitch across probably not even ½ inch in, so just a little bit in, just to sort of give that nice little corner on there. Oops, and we need to go back to a straight stitch. So if you do it on one, you probably need to do it on all four. I've pressed the seam down towards the back rather than up where the gap is. Just want to make sure all of those 4 points go into the, or out to the point, one of those things. So there's 2 more to go, so I'll go ahead and do those, and then I can show it to you all out the other way. So I've done my 4 little corners, so we'll turn it out the right way now, and we are done. It's just a quick fun little project. So there it is, and I've got a little packet of tissues here that we can pop in. And if you're wanting to be able to grab the tissues out, because often they have an opening at one end, but you could just pop a slit in the package down the centre there so that they're more accessible through a little container this sort of shape. So I think that's looking pretty good. Another way to use up some of these leftovers, we don't have to tell everyone they're leftovers, they could probably have been made especially just for this project. Great gifts, great to pop in your purse, great because it's just great. So that was project number 11 using fat quarter fabrics, and I will see you again with project idea number 12.